A billionaire was lost in thought when he saw a little girl crying on the street. Around her neck was his long-lost necklace that has been missing for years. He rushed to her, pointing with trembling hands. "Where did you get this?" The girl, Vera, clutched it tightly. "Don't touch it. This is my daddy's necklace." The billionaire froze. His chest tightened. His whole world stopped. Daddy's necklace? Who was this child? And how did she end up with something that belonged only to him? Stay tuned and enjoy this powerful, suspense-filled story that will keep you on the edge of your seat until the very end. Isabella was a beautiful young lady with a kind heart. She lived in a small room with her best friend, Esther. Life was not easy for them. Isabella didn't have a good job and sometimes went to bed without food. But she never gave up. She always said, "One day, my story will change." One bright morning, Isabella woke up early and smiled. She had an interview at a hotel. Esther hugged her and prayed for her. "Go and shine, Isabella. I know you'll get this job." Isabella wore her best clothes and went to the hotel. After many questions, she was told, "Congratulations, you got the job." Isabella screamed with joy after so many months of struggle and disappointment and hugged Esther when she got home. That night, Esther was so happy for Isabella that she decided they should go out to celebrate. "Let's go to the club tonight," she said. "Just for fun." Isabella didn't want to go at first, but Esther begged her. "Just one night. You deserve it." Isabella agreed. They dressed up and went to a popular club in the city. Loud music, dancing lights, people laughing. It was like another world. That same night, in another part of the city, Kelvin, a 33-year-old millionaire, sat alone in his car with tears in his eyes. He was a successful businessman, rich, respected, and handsome. But his heart was broken. He had just been betrayed by someone he trusted the most, his business partner. The man had stolen company money and ran away, leaving Kelvin to face the damage. Kelvin felt lost. He drove to a club and started drinking heavily, hoping to forget the pain. His men later helped him upstairs to his private room in the hotel above the club. He could barely walk. His eyes were red. His thoughts were heavy. Back at the club, Isabella wore a simple black dress. She looked natural and lovely. But soon, her body started feeling weak. She had taken a strong drug earlier for her headache, and now it was making her sleepy. She touched Esther's hand and said, "I need to lie down. I feel dizzy." She walked upstairs quietly, searching for a resting place. She saw a hotel room door half open. It was quiet and dark inside. Isabella walked in slowly, lay on the bed, and closed her eyes. Sleep took her quickly. She didn't know it was Kelvin's room. A few minutes later, Kelvin walked into his room. His eyes were tired. His steps were slow. When he saw Isabella on the bed, in his drunken state, he thought she was someone his friend had arranged to comfort him. He didn't say anything. Isabella didn't move. That night, in confusion, pain, and weakness, they became intimate. The next morning, Isabella woke up slowly. Her head was still spinning. She sat up and looked around. The room was quiet. The man she slept with was gone. She touched her body and quickly stood up, shocked and confused. Her eyes fell on a beautiful gold necklace lying beside the pillow. She picked it up and held it close. It looked expensive. It had a name on it, K. Williams. She didn't know who the man was, but something inside her told her to keep the necklace safe. On the table, she also saw some money. Tears filled her eyes. "What happened to me last night?" Isabella whispered. She quickly dressed up and ran home. Esther was already worried. "Isabella, where have you been? What happened?" Isabella didn't speak. She only hugged Esther and cried. 1 month later, Isabella started feeling weak. She couldn't eat much. Her body felt strange. Esther noticed. Are you okay? Esther asked. I don't know, Isabella said with fear in her eyes. She went to a nearby clinic. After running tests, the nurse came back smiling gently. Congratulations, you are 1 month pregnant. Isabella froze. What? She asked, her voice shaking. Yes, you are pregnant, the nurse said again. Isabella covered her mouth with her hands. Tears rolled down her face. She walked home slowly. When she got inside, she sat on the floor and cried like a baby. Her face was covered in tears. She couldn't stop crying. Her whole body shook with fear. I'm pregnant. I'm going to have a baby, Isabella whispered over and over. But how will I take care of this child? I don't even know who the father is. I don't even know his name. I didn't see his face. She placed a hand on her flat stomach and looked up at the old ceiling. God, why me? She cried. I don't have money. I don't have parents, just this small job I just started. Why now? Why like this? The door opened gently. It was Esther. She had bought bread and beans from a nearby shop, but when she saw Isabella crying like that, she dropped the food. Isabella, what's wrong? You're scaring me, she rushed to her. Isabella looked at her, tears still rolling down. I'm pregnant, Esther. I'm pregnant, she said, her voice weak like a whisper. Esther's eyes widened. What? Wait, what? How? Isabella explained everything slowly. The celebration, the club, the sleep, waking up in a strange room, the gold necklace, and the money she found. She opened her bag and brought out the necklace and the money. Esther stared at it. It was gold, shiny, and had the letters K. Williams on it. Esther was quiet for a long time. Then she held Isabella's hand. Listen, we need to go back to that club, Esther said softly. Someone must know something. Maybe the workers. Maybe someone saw something that night. Isabella looked unsure. Do you think they'll remember? It's been 1 month already. We can try, Esther said firmly. We won't sit here doing nothing. The next day, Isabella and Esther went back to the same club. The music was not as loud during the day. The lights were off. Only cleaners and a few staff were around. They walked up to the manager. Good afternoon, sir, Esther said politely. Please, we need your help. The manager raised his eyes. What do you want? My friend was here one night, about a month ago. She drank something and became very weak. She ended up in a hotel room that night, and something happened. She woke up alone the next morning and doesn't remember who the man was. The manager frowned. We see a lot of people every night. We can't remember one person. Esther brought out the necklace from Isabella's bag and showed it to him. Maybe this can help. He left this behind. Have you seen anyone wearing something like this? The manager looked at it closely, then shook his head. No. Looks expensive, but I've never seen it. Sorry. Isabella felt her heart sink. Another cleaner walked by. Esther stopped her. Please, do you remember a man that booked a hotel that night? He came in very late. Maybe drunk. The woman scratched her head. Men come here. I can't say. Some go to the hotel after drinking. But I don't know their names. They asked 2 more staff, but no one had answers. Isabella and Esther walked out of the club slowly. Isabella looked down, her steps heavy. No one knows him, Isabella whispered. What do I do now? Esther held her hand. Don't give up, Isabella. We'll find another way. They walked quietly along the street. Isabella placed her hand gently on her stomach. I don't know your father, she said in her heart, but I promise to love you. I promise to protect you. I will raise this baby alone. I will try. I will do my best. This baby didn't ask to come. It's not the baby's fault. Esther felt tears in her eyes too. She hugged Isabella tightly. You're stronger than you think, she whispered. But I'm here. We will walk through this together, no matter what. That night, Isabella couldn't sleep. She kept thinking. She imagined the baby growing in her belly. What would she say when the child asked, "Where is my father?" What would she do if people mocked her? But one thing she knew, she would never abandon her child. The next morning, she went to work at the hotel. She cleaned rooms, washed towels, and smiled at guests even when her heart was heavy. Nobody knew what she was going through. Nobody could see the silent pain in her eyes. But Isabella kept going. Somewhere far in the city, in a large mansion, Kelvin sat in his office. He looked at the empty space in front of him. He had no idea he had left a piece of his past behind, a gold necklace, and a baby growing in a poor girl's womb. In the mansion, Kelvin stood in front of his tall mirror, adjusting his black suit and wristwatch. He looked sharp and handsome as always, ready for another day at work. But something felt missing. He looked around his room, then turned to his dressing table. His eyes scanned every corner. Then he stopped. His gold necklace, the one with his family name on it, was gone. He frowned. "Where is it?" he murmured to himself. He opened all his drawers, checked under the bed, flipped the pillow. Nothing. Then he called out, "Mary." His maid, an elderly woman, rushed in. "Yes, sir." "When you were cleaning my room yesterday, did you see one of my gold necklaces? The one with my family name on it?" Mary looked surprised. "Oh, no, sir. I didn't. I cleaned your dressing table, but I didn't see any necklace there." Kelvin sighed and rubbed his forehead. "I don't even remember the last time I wore that necklace. So, if you want, I can search for the necklace again. Maybe it fell somewhere." Kelvin waved his hand. "No, it's fine. You can go." Mary bowed her head. "All right, sir." She quietly left. Kelvin sat on the edge of his bed, still thinking. That necklace. I've had it for years. How did I lose it? He shrugged it off and headed out for work. He didn't know that necklace was now with someone else, someone he had met on a forgotten night. Back in Isabella's world, Isabella was standing behind the hotel front desk, trying to keep her eyes open. Her eyes were red, and her head felt heavy. It was getting worse every day. Her body was weak. She would be working, then suddenly feel dizzy. She would be standing, then suddenly feel like sitting on the floor. She was now always tired, always sleepy. Even after sleeping all night, she still felt like closing her eyes the next morning. And sometimes, her stomach would turn like it was doing a dance. One afternoon, she went to clean one of the rooms, but ended up sitting on the bed and dozing off. A guest came in and was shocked to see her sleeping. The guest went straight to the manager. Later that day, Isabella was called into the manager's office. He looked angry. "Isabella, what's going on with you?" he asked. I am sorry, sir," Isabella stammered. "I've just been feeling." "You've been feeling sleepy, weak, dizzy," he said, finishing his sentence. "You've been careless and slow. Guests are complaining. Even your co-workers are saying the same thing." Tears welled up in Isabella's eyes. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I don't know what's wrong with you, Isabella. But this hotel cannot keep someone who's not fit to work." Isabella froze. Her heart dropped. "You're fired," the manager said. "You can go." Outside the hotel, Isabella sat on a cement bench, crying her eyes out. She held her bag close to her chest and rocked back and forth like a child. "I just lost my job. I just lost the only hope I had." Her body shook as she cried. She didn't know what to do or where to go. That evening, Isabella returned to her small room. As soon as she opened the door, Esther rushed to her. "Isabella, you didn't go to work? I've been worried." Isabella dropped to the floor, crying again. "I was fired," she whispered. Esther gasped. "What? Why? What happened? Isabella explained everything. How she had been feeling dizzy, sleepy, weak, and how it affected her work. Esther looked at her for a while. Isabella, I think this pregnancy is getting harder. Isabella covered her face with her hands. How will I survive now, Esther? No job, no money, and I'm pregnant. God, help me. Esther hugged her tightly, tears in her own eyes. You're not alone. We will figure this out. Don't give up, Isabella. Please don't give up. Meanwhile, in his mansion, Kelvin stood on his balcony looking at the sky. He had no idea that the girl crying on the floor, pregnant and helpless, carried his blood in her womb and his gold necklace in her drawer. 5 years later, Isabella was 29 years old. She was no longer that scared young girl sitting on the floor and crying. Life had not been easy, but she didn't give up. After losing her hotel job years ago, she later found another one in a small but busy restaurant across the city. The pay was small, but it helped her survive. She worked hard every day, serving customers, washing plates, and cleaning the floors. She never complained. She just wanted a better life for her daughter. Yes, her daughter. Little Vera was now 4 years old, a bright and beautiful girl. She had her mother's eyes, a sharp mind, and the sweetest smile. Isabella raised her alone, without any help from a man. Esther, her best friend, was always there in the early days, until she got married and moved away. Even though Isabella had no husband, she gave Vera all the love in the world. But some questions were hard to answer. One quiet evening, Isabella and Vera sat together in their small room. Vera was playing with her dolls quietly, but her face looked sad. Isabella noticed it. "My baby, what's wrong?" she asked softly. Vera looked up with teary eyes. "Mummy, where is my daddy?" Isabella's heart dropped. Vera continued, "My friends, Jane and Myra, they always talk about their daddies. Jane said her daddy brings her chocolate biscuits. Myra said her daddy reads her bedtime stories. But I don't have any daddy." Isabella gently pulled her close. She didn't speak at first. Her hands shook slightly as she opened the top drawer of the small wooden cabinet beside her bed. She brought out a shiny gold necklace with the words K. Williams carved on it. Isabella smiled sadly and wiped her tears. "Vera, this necklace belongs to your daddy," she said softly. Vera's eyes lit up. "Really?" Isabella nodded. "Yes. This is the only thing he left behind. I don't know his name or where he is. But this necklace reminds me of him. And now, it will remind you too." Vera touched the necklace gently with her tiny fingers. "So, this is my daddy's necklace?" she asked, her eyes big with wonder. "Yes, my baby," Isabella said, placing it around her small neck. "It's your daddy's necklace. Please, don't let anyone touch it. This is the only memory we have of him." Vera smiled brightly. "Wow. I'll show my friends at school. I'll tell them I have a daddy too. I have his necklace." Isabella shook her head gently. "No, Vera. You can show it, but don't let anyone touch it. You must protect it." "I will, Mummy," Vera nodded happily. "I will always wear it. I won't miss my daddy again, because I have his necklace now." Isabella hugged her tightly. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but this time, it wasn't from pain. It was from love, and the joy of seeing her daughter smile. Meanwhile, in a luxury mansion far away, Kelvin sat on the balcony with his father, Chief Williams. They were drinking tea and watching the sunset. "Son," his father began, "you're not getting any younger. When are you going to settle down and marry?" Kelvin chuckled. "Soon, Dad. I've been thinking about it." His father smiled. "Good. Trisha is a nice girl. I've met her family. I like her." "Yes, Dad. I'll get married to Trisha soon. She's beautiful, smart, and well-behaved." But then Kelvin paused. He stared into the sky with a thoughtful look. But sometimes, I feel like something is missing, he added quietly. His father looked at him. Missing? Like what? Kelvin shrugged. I don't know. It's just this strange empty feeling inside me. I try to ignore it, but it always comes back. His father sighed deeply and placed his cup down. Maybe it's because of your late mum. You were very close to her, he said gently. Kelvin nodded slowly. Maybe. You know what? His father continued. You need to get married. That will help you feel complete. That emptiness, it will go away when you have your own family. Kelvin smiled faintly. I hope so, Dad. But deep in his heart, he didn't know that the missing piece of his life was a small girl named Vera, wearing his necklace with pride, calling it my daddy's necklace. A beautiful black car slowly pulled into the driveway of a modern house with white walls and flower pots at the entrance. The driver's door opened, and a classy, well-dressed young woman stepped out in high heels. It was Trisha, Kelvin's girlfriend. She looked elegant in her fitted dress, her curly hair bouncing as she walked. She held a designer handbag and wore light makeup that made her look rich and polished. Trisha was highly educated, bold, and stylish. Everything about her screamed power and beauty. She walked up the stairs and pressed the doorbell. Cynthia, she called out cheerfully. The door opened. Cynthia, her best friend, hugged her tightly. Oh, Trisha. Look at you. Come in. They walked into the living room, laughing. The place was neat and classy, just like Cynthia. She was also beautiful and full of confidence. As they sat down, Cynthia poured some juice into 2 glasses. So tell me, Cynthia asked with a playful smile, how's your man, Kelvin? Trisha smiled shyly and took a sip. He's fine, she said. Working hard as usual. You know him. Cynthia raised her eyebrows. So, when is he going to propose? Trisha sighed deeply and looked down at her glass. He hasn't said anything, Trisha replied. I don't know what he's waiting for. I love him so much, Cynthia. But I don't know if he has any plans to settle down. Cynthia sat up. What do you mean? You two always look happy together. You're always smiling, traveling, taking cute pictures. Trisha nodded slowly. Yes, we are happy. But sometimes he just becomes quiet, absent-minded, like he's thinking deeply. When I ask him what's wrong, he just smiles and says, nothing. But I know something is bothering him. Cynthia looked at her carefully. Trisha, are you sure he's not thinking about another woman? Trisha's eyes widened slightly. That was my first thought too. I've been watching him closely. I'm monitoring his phone. I installed a tracker. He doesn't know. Cynthia gasped and covered her mouth in shock. You did what? Yes, Trisha said confidently. But I haven't seen him chatting or calling any other woman. Only his business partners and a few old friends. So, I don't think he's cheating. Cynthia smiled mischievously. You want him to propose, right? Trisha nodded quickly. Yes. I want him to marry me. I want to become Mrs. Williams. Cynthia giggled. Let me tell you the secret I used for this, my man. You see that ring on my finger? She lifted her left hand and showed off her engagement ring. Trisha leaned in. Tell me. Cynthia whispered like it was a big secret. I told him I was pregnant. Trisha's jaw dropped. What? But were you really pregnant? Cynthia shook her head, laughing. No, I wasn't. I just wanted him to take me seriously. 2 weeks later, he proposed. Trisha was speechless. But what if he finds out you're not pregnant? Cynthia rolled her eyes. When he asked me later, I told him I lost the pregnancy. And that was the end. He even felt sorry for me. By then, we were already engaged. Men are like that. Trisha was quiet for a while. Do you think I should do the same with Kelvin? She asked slowly. Cynthia smiled. If you really want to marry him, yes. He's rich, handsome. You love him. Just do it. Once he believes you're carrying his child, he'll propose immediately. No man wants to lose his child or his image. Trisha stared into space, thinking. Her eyes blinked slowly. She remembered Kelvin telling her, I'll settle down soon. But she also remembered how often he sat quietly, lost in thought. Okay, Trisha said softly. I'll do it. I'll tell him I'm pregnant. Meanwhile, at that same moment, little Vera was playing with her dolls at home. She looked at the gold necklace hanging on her chest and smiled. I have a daddy, she whispered to herself. And this necklace proves it. In a world full of secrets, plans, and lies, one little girl was holding on to the only truth she had. The sun was shining softly as Trisha's black car entered the Williams mansion. The security man opened the gate with a big smile. Everyone knew who she was, Kelvin's woman. She stepped out of the car in a red gown, her heels clicking gently on the marble floor. Her makeup was flawless, and her handbag gleamed under the sun. As she walked to the entrance, the door opened before she could knock. Kelvin stood there, smiling brightly. Trisha, he called out. She smiled sweetly. Hello, sweetheart. He pulled her into a warm hug and kissed her cheek. I missed you, he whispered. I missed you too, she replied. Kelvin held her hand as they walked inside the large mansion. The place smelled fresh, like expensive flowers and polished floors. Come, let me show you something, he said excitedly, almost like a boy. He took her to the lounge and played a soft song on the music speaker. They both laughed and started dancing slowly. Trisha looked around the house. Everything looks so perfect here. Not perfect until you're always here, Kelvin replied with a wink. Trisha giggled. They sat together on the couch, Kelvin's hand gently playing with her fingers. But after a while, he noticed Trisha was quiet. He looked at her carefully. You look different today. Are you okay? Trisha looked down like she was nervous. Then slowly, she said, Kelvin, I have something to tell you. He leaned forward, concerned. What is it? Are you all right? Trisha took a deep breath and placed her hand on her stomach. I'm pregnant. Silence. Kelvin's eyes widened. His mouth opened a little, but no sound came out. Then, like a wave of joy hit him, he stood up quickly and shouted, You're what? Trisha stood slowly, pretending to be shy. I'm going to have your baby, Kelvin. Kelvin was so happy, he lifted her off the ground and spun her gently. Trisha. Oh my God. Are you serious? We're having a baby. She laughed. Yes. He hugged her tight. This is the best news I've ever heard. He kissed her forehead, his eyes filled with joy. I can't believe this. I'm going to be a father. Then he paused, looked her in the eyes, and said seriously, My dad and I will come and see your parents soon. We must do the right thing. Trisha smiled sweetly, though guilt sat quietly in her heart. Yes, Kelvin. I'll be waiting. But deep inside, she knew there was no baby. Not yet. Meanwhile, far across town, little Vera skipped home with a drawing in her hand. She had drawn her daddy's necklace in school and colored it with crayons. Mummy, Mummy, look what I drew, she called. Isabella came out of the small kitchen with a smile. What is it, my love? Vera raised the paper high. My daddy's necklace. Isabella's eyes filled with tears again. She walked over, sat on the floor, and hugged Vera tightly. Mummy, I love you, Vera said softly. Isabella smiled. I love you too, my baby. And without knowing, on the other side of town, Kelvin was about to plan a wedding, while his real daughter had just drawn a picture of his necklace in a small room with peeling walls. Fate was watching. and the truth was slowly getting ready to explode. It was a hot afternoon. The air was dry, and everything felt heavy. In a small, quiet room, Isabella lay weak on her thin mattress. Sweat covered her face. Her head was pounding. Her body was burning. She could barely move. "Vera," she called out softly. The little girl came running from the kitchen. She still wore her precious daddy's necklace around her neck like treasure. "Yes, Mummy?" she asked, her face full of worry. Isabella reached for her handbag and brought out some money with shaky hands. "Please, run to the chemist down the street. Buy the drugs the doctor wrote for me. Show them this note. I'm feeling very weak." Vera took the money and the note, nodded quickly, and wiped her tears. "I will go now, Mummy. I promise to come back fast." Isabella smiled weakly. "Be careful, okay? And don't lose your necklace." "I won't, Mummy." Vera turned and ran off. On the busy city road, a black SUV moved slowly along the same street. Inside sat Kelvin, looking out the window quietly. He was deep in thought. Trisha's pregnancy news was still ringing in his head. "I'm going to be a father," he whispered to himself. But something didn't feel right. His chest was tight. He couldn't explain why he felt that way. He stared out the window, lost in silence. Just then, something happened. A little girl ran across the sidewalk, crying and holding her necklace as she ran. People were staring, but no one stopped her. Kelvin's heart skipped. Something about the child, something about her tears, touched him deeply. "Stop the car," Kelvin said suddenly. The driver hit the brake quickly. "So, stop the car now." Before the driver could ask anything else, Kelvin opened the door and jumped out. He ran after the little girl. "Baby. Hey, baby, stop," he called gently. The little girl, Vera, turned and looked back. Her cheeks were wet. Her slippers were dusty. Her little hand gripped the money tightly. Kelvin slowly bent down in front of her, breathing fast. "Why are you crying?" he asked. Vera wiped her eyes. "My mummy is sick. I'm going to buy medicine for her." Kelvin looked at her closely and froze. His eyes dropped to her chest. There it was. His necklace. His gold necklace. The one with his family name, K. Williams. Kelvin's eyes widened. He felt like the ground under his feet was shaking. He pointed to the necklace slowly, almost afraid to speak. Where did you get this necklace?" he asked, his voice trembling. Vera stepped back a little. "Don't touch it," she said quickly. "My mummy said I shouldn't let anyone touch my daddy's necklace." Kelvin stared at her, unable to speak for a moment. "Why your daddy's necklace?" he whispered. "Yes," Vera nodded. "My mummy gave it to me. She said it's the only thing my daddy left." Kelvin's chest tightened. His hands were shaking. Who is your daddy?" he asked again. Vera looked confused. "I don't know. Mummy never told me. But she said this necklace is his." Kelvin blinked hard, his breath catching in his throat. This child, this little girl, was wearing his long-lost necklace. He couldn't believe it. "And your mummy?" he asked carefully. "What is her name?" "Isabella. My mummy is Isabella. She's sick right now. I'm going to buy drugs." "Where is your house?" Kelvin asked quickly. "Is it far?" Vera pointed down a street. "It's close. Over there." Kelvin stood up fast. He turned to his driver, who had parked and stepped out of the car. "Go to the nearest pharmacy and buy everything on that list," he said, handing the paper Vera was holding. The driver nodded and left immediately. "Come, Vera," Kelvin said gently, "take me to your mummy." And hand in hand, the billionaire followed the little girl, his own necklace swinging on her tiny neck, and a strange truth waiting just around the corner. Kelvin's heart was beating fast as he followed little Vera down the narrow street. She held his hand tightly, still sniffing from crying, her small feet tapping quickly on the rough road. The gold necklace bounced gently on her chest, his lost necklace, the same one he had not seen in over 5 years. How did she get it? Who is this Isabella? Could it be? Too many thoughts filled his head, but he kept walking. The road was rough and dusty. Small houses lined the street. Dogs barked in the distance. Clothes hung from ropes outside poor homes. It was a part of town Kelvin had never visited in his entire life. He looked down at Vera again, her soft curly hair, her innocent eyes, her tiny voice. Something in her touched a part of him he didn't even know was still alive. At Isabella's house. Isabella lay weak on her thin mattress, barely able to keep her eyes open. She tried to sit up, but her body felt like it had no bones. "Where's Vera?" she whispered to herself. "Why hasn't she come back yet?" She tried to stand, but her legs gave out. She sat back and covered her face with her hands. Tears slid down her cheeks again. She was tired. So tired of fighting alone. Outside. Vera stopped in front of a wooden door. "This is my house." Kelvin looked around. The place was small, old and broken. He was quiet. Vera opened the door and ran inside. "Mummy. Mummy, I'm back. I brought someone." Kelvin stepped in slowly behind her. As his eyes adjusted to the dim room, he saw her. Isabella. She was lying on the floor mat, sweating and pale, her hand pressed to her head. She slowly turned her head, and her eyes met Kelvin's. But Kelvin didn't recognize her. Not yet. He walked forward slowly. "Hello, are you Isabella?" Isabella nodded weakly. "Yes, who are you?" "I saw your daughter crying on the road," Kelvin said softly. "I couldn't leave her. She said you were sick." Isabella turned to Vera. "You followed someone?" "Vera." "No, Mummy. He helped me. He's nice. He told his driver to buy your medicine." Isabella tried to speak, but coughed instead. Kelvin quickly rushed to her and helped her sit up. "Don't talk. Just rest. My driver is coming with the drugs." Isabella looked at him strangely. His face, it felt familiar. But her head was spinning. Kelvin gently placed a pillow behind her back and passed her a cup of water. "You'll be fine, okay," he said softly. Isabella nodded, still confused about who he was. Few minutes later, the driver returned with a small black bag filled with drugs. Kelvin collected it and gave the drugs to Isabella, helping her take them with water. Vera sat by her mother's side, hugging her tightly. Isabella was weak but thankful. "Thank you, sir. I don't know who you are, but thank you so much." Kelvin gave a small smile. "You don't have to thank me. I couldn't walk past your daughter like that." He stood up, looked around the small room, and his eyes returned to Vera. He smiled. "What a strong girl you have. She reminds me of someone." Isabella smiled faintly. "She's all I have." Kelvin nodded slowly, his heart feeling heavy again. He glanced one last time at the necklace hanging around Vera's neck, but still didn't remember the night he lost it. He didn't know the woman lying before him was the same one from that blurry night 5 years ago. He didn't know this child might be the answer to the emptiness in his soul. But fate had brought him one step closer. And the truth was now sitting in the same room. Isabella was feeling a bit better now. The medicine Kelvin brought had started working. She sat up with Vera resting gently beside her. Isabella looked at Kelvin and said softly, "Thank you, sir. Thank you for helping me and my daughter. You didn't have to, but you did." Kelvin gave a small smile, then cleared his throat. Something had been on his mind since he walked into that room. "Please don't be offended," he said carefully, his voice low, "but can I ask you something personal?" Isabella blinked, surprised. "Yes, so." He looked at Vera again, then pointed gently. "The necklace, the one your daughter is wearing. Where did you get it from?" She told me it's her daddy's necklace. She didn't even let me touch it. Isabella looked at her daughter, then at the necklace. Yes, it belonged to her father, she said slowly. Kelvin's heart pounded. Can you tell me how you got it? Isabella took a deep breath. Her hands were shaking as she placed them on her lap. It all started about 5 years ago, she began, her voice shaky but clear. I had just gotten a new job. My best friend Esther was so happy for me. She said we should go to the club and celebrate. I didn't want to go, but she convinced me. Isabella paused and looked down at her fingers. That night, I was feeling dizzy. I had a headache, and someone gave me something to drink. I don't even know what it was, but it made me more dizzy. So I went upstairs in the hotel, entered a room, and just fell asleep on the bed. Tears slowly filled her eyes as she remembered. When I woke up the next morning, the man was gone. I didn't see his face. I didn't know who he was. But I saw that necklace, this necklace, lying on the bed beside me. She looked up at Kelvin, pain in her eyes. I kept it, because I didn't know anything else. A month later, I found out I was pregnant. Isabella's voice broke. So, why are you asking about the necklace? Do you know it? Kelvin was silent for a long moment. His eyes were fixed on the necklace. His face looked like he had seen a ghost. Then, in a soft voice, he replied, That necklace is mine. Isabella gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. What? I'm so sorry, Kelvin continued. I never knew. I didn't even remember that night until now. Isabella's eyes widened. You were the man? You Vera's. Kelvin nodded slowly, his heart heavy. Yes. I lost that necklace 5 years ago. I went to Vortex Club. I was going through a lot. Someone I trusted betrayed me. I was depressed. I drank too much, and my men took me to a hotel room to rest. He looked Isabella in the eyes. When I got to the room, I saw you lying there. I thought you were someone they brought to comfort me. I was already drunk and out of my mind. Tears rolled down Isabella's face. Oh my God. I'm so sorry, Isabella, Kelvin whispered. I didn't know. I had no idea. I never imagined that night would result in a child. In her. Vera looked confused but held on to Isabella tightly. Isabella covered her mouth, shaking with emotion. So all these years, I raised her alone. I didn't even know who her father was. Kelvin kneeled beside her, his voice full of regret. I can't change the past, but I can make it right now. He looked into Vera's eyes. I'm your daddy, he said gently. Vera tilted her head, looking at him closely, her eyes wide. Isabella cried harder. I'm so sorry for everything, Kelvin said again. For leaving you alone to raise her. For not being there. I want to fix it. Please, come with me. Isabella looked up, shocked. What? Come with me, Kelvin said, holding her hand. You and Vera. Let me take care of you both. Come to my home. Let me be a father to her. Isabella couldn't speak. She looked at her daughter, at the necklace, at the man before her. Everything was happening too fast. But somehow, her heart believed him. Later that evening, the black SUV pulled up in front of the Williams mansion. The security guard's jaw dropped when he saw Kelvin stepping out, holding a little girl in one hand and supporting a woman with the other. Isabella looked around, shocked by the size of the mansion. Vera gasped. Wow. Mummy, is this a palace? Kelvin smiled gently. This is your home now. Inside the Williams mansion, the atmosphere had changed. Isabella stood in the large kitchen with wide eyes. The shining marble floors, the fancy silver fridge, the glass cabinets. It was like a dream. Vera was laughing as she explored the house, running up and down the soft rug in the living room. Kelvin stood at the staircase, smiling as he watched them. For the first time in a long time, he felt peace in his heart. He walked over to Isabella. "I have to go to work now," he said softly. Isabella turned. "All right, sir. Thank you again for everything." Kelvin smiled. "Please, no sir anymore. Just call me Kelvin. And if you're hungry, feel free to eat. Everything is in the kitchen. Make yourself at home." Then he bent down and picked up Vera, spinning her gently in his arms. "My princess," he said with a big grin, "Daddy is going to work now. Be a good girl, okay?" Vera nodded and hugged his neck tightly. "Bye-bye, Daddy." Kelvin kissed her forehead and placed her back down. He grabbed his car keys and walked out of the mansion with a smile on his face. 3 hours later, a loud car horn echoed from outside. A black car pulled up in front of the Williams mansion. The gate opened and a woman stepped out in heels. Trisha. She looked stunning as always, dressed in a classy outfit and carrying a designer bag. But her smile faded the moment she stepped into the house and saw Isabella standing by the dining table and Vera playing with a doll nearby. Trisha's eyes narrowed sharply. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice rising. "What are you doing here?" Isabella turned, startled. "I'm sorry, Ma. Mr. Kelvin invited me. He brought me and my daughter here yesterday." Trisha slowly walked closer, her eyes scanning Isabella from head to toe. She frowned in disgust. "Please, leave this place now. You don't belong here." Isabella's eyes widened. "Please, Ma, don't send us out. Mr. Kelvin." "I said leave." Trisha snapped. Isabella held Vera tightly and backed away. But Trisha was furious. She walked forward and shoved Isabella toward the door. "Get out of this house," she shouted. Isabella stumbled, still holding Vera. But in the middle of the struggle, Vera slipped from her arms and fell. She hit her face on the sharp edge of the gate and cried out loudly in pain. "Mummy!" "My face!" she screamed. Isabella bent quickly, lifting her bleeding daughter. "Please. Look what you've done," she cried. Trisha crossed her arms. "That's what happens when you trespass where you don't belong." She walked back inside, slamming the door. Isabella and Vera sat by the gate outside the mansion for hours. The sun was hot, and they hadn't eaten anything. Isabella tore a piece of cloth to press on Vera's wounded cheek. The little girl whimpered softly in her arms. Evening came. Kelvin's car drove in. As he reached the gate, he spotted Isabella and Vera sitting on the ground outside. His heart raced. He jumped out of the car and rushed to them. "What happened?" He knelt before Vera, saw the wound on her face, and looked up at Isabella. Isabella's voice was shaking. Yo, madam, she threw us out. She said we shouldn't be in your house. She pushed me, and Vera fell and got hurt." Kelvin's face turned dark with anger. "Get inside," he said quickly. "Both of you. Come inside now." He opened the gate wide and helped them in. As they stepped inside, he saw Trisha sitting in the living room watching a movie, sipping a drink like nothing happened. Kelvin's anger exploded. He walked straight to her and yanked her up from the couch. "To the room. Now." Trisha looked confused. What's going on?" He didn't answer. He marched her to his room and shut the door behind them. Inside Kelvin's bedroom. "What is wrong with you, Trisha?" he shouted. "You saw someone in my house, and instead of calling me, you threw her out. You pushed her. You made a little girl fall and get injured." Trisha folded her arms. "Who is she? Why is she here? You brought her into your house without telling me." "That little girl is my daughter," Kelvin shouted. Trisha's mouth dropped open. "What?" "Yes. My blood. My own child. I just found out days ago. And you starved her, pushed her, and hurt her." Trisha's eyes were wide. But I'm pregnant for you. So, Kelvin shouted. So because you're pregnant, I should throw away my own daughter, the child I abandoned for 5 years without knowing. He stepped back and pointed toward the door. Let this never happen again, Trisha. Don't ever touch them. Don't ever go near Vera again. Or I swear, this house will no longer be your home. Trisha stood frozen, and for the first time, she realized something terrifying. Kelvin was beginning to care deeply for Isabella and Vera, and she was slowly losing her place in his heart. The sky was gray that morning. The house felt quiet, too quiet. Trisha sat alone in the large living room, her eyes puffy from crying all night. The mansion that once made her feel proud now felt cold and distant. She heard footsteps. Kelvin was coming down the stairs. He wore a simple shirt and jeans, but something was different about him. He looked calm, sure, free. He walked over and stood in front of her. Trisha slowly stood up. Kelvin, please, let me explain. I never meant to hurt you. Kelvin took a deep breath. I know, but you still did. Trisha lowered her eyes. I've been thinking, Kelvin continued. Do you know why I never proposed to you? Why I kept delaying? Trisha shook her head slowly, tears rolling down her cheeks. It's because I wasn't sure, Kelvin said softly. All those months we spent together. Yes, we laughed, we traveled, we smiled in pictures, but deep down inside, I felt empty. Like I lost something I couldn't name. He paused and looked out the window where Isabella and Vera were in the garden, laughing and watering flowers. Then he turned back to Trisha. Now I know what I was missing. Trisha's lip trembled. My heart belongs to them, Vera and Isabella. I didn't just find them. I found peace with them. Real peace. The kind I've never had before. Trisha began to sob. But I loved you. I believe you did, Kelvin said gently. But real love doesn't come through lies or tricks. You tried to force something that wasn't meant to be. He walked closer and held her hand gently. I'm not angry. I'm not bitter. But I know now that I was walking in the wrong direction. I was searching for happiness where it didn't exist. Trisha looked away, her heart breaking. I wish you well, Trisha. I truly do. But this chapter is over. He let go of her hand and slowly walked away. Later that evening, Isabella stood on the balcony, the breeze playing with her hair. Vera ran to her, laughing with a flower crown on her head. Guess what, Mummy? Daddy said we're going out tomorrow, all 3 of us. Isabella smiled and lifted her daughter into her arms. Kelvin stepped outside and wrapped his arms around them both. And in that simple moment, a new family was born. Moral of the story: love cannot be forced. Real love is not built on lies or tricks. It grows through truth, kindness, and peace. Sometimes, the things we are searching for are already around us, waiting to be found in the most unexpected places. The end.